sued the AMA. And the documents that came out in the course of that case, it took 13 years, but they were vindicated. They were right. The AMA was underhandedly, surreptitiously trying to dismantle the profession. In 1987, the AMA was found guilty of conspiring to contain and eliminate the chiropractic profession. So that really is just a microcosm of what's happened to all alternative therapy. Anybody who doesn't really sell drugs. As we did that film, the subjects that we ran into about vaccines and GMOs, these were new topics to me, and they were radioactive. We had people, even in the chiropractic profession, who were like, you can't cover that in this film. And so we followed that with the film Bought, which...
And we're going to have you back about Bought, and we're going to start carrying that as well. And we'll talk about Bought right now, but expanding on that, I never went to a chiropractor until I'd thrown my shoulder out about 10 years ago, and the police had done it, arresting me. So they said I had to have surgery. I went to a chiropractor, popped it right back in, never had another problem. Then I was firing a 50 cal last year, handheld, about 100 rounds, thought it was fine. My spine completely bent towards the left. I went to the medical doctor. They said surgery. Went to a chiropractor, 3 sessions, totally fixed it, did the x-rays, everything was fine. All I know is I got results. But if they had their way, I would have had to have the surgery. Go ahead, sorry.
This is what's astounding. If you go see a surgeon for a back problem, you're 42 times more likely to have back surgery than if you go to a chiropractor. When you figure over half of all back surgeries fail, the number one cause of a second back surgery is a first back surgery. This is horrific. Finally, insurance companies are starting to stand up for this, saying, we can't do this. We can't keep paying people. We're creating a nation of drug addicts because of the pain that they endure after having back surgery. And so many times this can be fixed quickly and simply by a chiropractor, and yet surgery is considered conservative care, and going to see a chiropractor is considered radical. It blows my mind how we do this.
Keep breaking it down.
What do you mean?
I mean, getting into your experiences of the film.
So I'll give you a perfect example. There's a chiropractor in Dallas, Texas named Francis Murphy. So Francis discovered an adjustment that is really my closest thing to a miracle that I've ever seen. He's done it and filmed it 1,500 times. People get frozen shoulder. It's a very common ailment where literally they can't lift their arm up higher than this. And so there's a drug that's recently been approved for frozen shoulder. There's surgery that they do for frozen shoulder. Francis came up with an adjustment of the occiput, but where your brain meets your skull, that when he does this adjustment, suddenly people that couldn't raise their arm before can now raise their arm over their head. And he never touches the shoulder, which is what's so bizarre about it. It almost validates the entire chiropractic model in that, doing an adjustment to someone's neck or occiput suddenly affects their shoulder without them ever touching the shoulder. He's done this and filmed it successfully over 1,500 times. So we filmed him and doctored. I felt horrible he calls me and says, hey, I've got a guy with a frozen shoulder. And I'm like, Francis, I'm sorry, I can't get there for a month. And so we made this poor guy with a frozen shoulder keep his frozen shoulder for another month so he could wait for us to film him and getting that released. But what's gone on since then is he noticed lots of different health outcomes to the people that were suffering from this that once he did this adjustment. So he started measuring heart rate variability. He started measuring all these different aspects of it. We brought him here to the University of Utah and had him sit with a professor at the University of Utah Medical School. And they started looking for what could be the mechanism. We know this works, and why does it work? So Francis was thinking, well, I'm adjusting in this area here. We think it's the cranial nerve 11. The vagus nerve actually shares that same conduit through that part of our anatomy. And the vagus nerve controls your breathing, your parasympathetic system. So all of a sudden, this is why he was seeing so many behavioral changes. My sister is a professor has been a professor at a medical school for over 25 years. I brought her in as she's looking at it, and now they're doing research on this, just finding out why this simple chiropractic adjustment is having such a profound effect on autism, on MS, on all these other things.
Sure, well, I didn't have that. I had a pinched nerve, and they were telling me that it was a torn rotator cuff. All I know is I went to the chiropractor, and it was hurting so bad I'd gone up to an event in Dallas, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I just pulled over at a place, went in. They said, yeah, come back in 2 hours. They did it. It hurt real bad when it happened. I felt like electricity in my arm for about a day, and then it was gone. So whatever the chiropractor did fixed it, and then they just fixed me again. I mean, I ought to be kissing their feet. I'm not saying there aren't some quacks out there and that it's not, a panacea. All I know is it's worked really well, and that makes sense. You got nerves coming out of your brain in the hole in the bottom of it, in your skull, and they go down through your spine, and if they get pinched, you're going to have problems. And if a chiropractor can pop it and get it where it's not being squeezed anymore, I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, but that sounds like it's pretty simple.
If you think about it, if we just start with the belief, let's do the most conservative thing first. It stuns me when I talk to people. The guy who lives in who built the house that I live in is 33 years old, has had 3 back surgeries, and is addicted to painkillers. And he did all that before he ever went to see a chiropractor. Good grief! Before you do something radical,
absolutely.
Go see a chiropractor and see if they can help you. Go see several of them.
Well, that's right. I have a friend who plays tennis, and she had gotten to the point where she didn't have to stop playing tennis. She plays it, competitively in leagues, and is one of the best people in the city. And she was going to have to stop, and she'd been to medical doctors. She'd been everywhere. And I said, listen, go to this chiropractor and get Graston with a steel bar. And I said, because it got my a neck pain out. I've started going to the chiropractor now because I had neck pain, and it hurts like hell when they're doing it, but it knocked it out. She did about 6-7 sessions. It's gone.
Yeah, there's a basic philosophy of chiropractic, and they talk about innate. And basically, if you take a baby and you slice its arm, that baby, its body already knows how to heal itself. We innately know how to heal. And so if we can remove interference, if we can have the nutrients in our body that we need and are not taking in toxins that affect us, our body can heal itself over and over. This respect for the body is unfortunately absent in traditional medicine in most cases, where we look at it and we say, okay, somebody's genetically broken, that somebody needs a medical intervention.
Well, of course you're genetically broken if you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes. You have a predisposition, what's the word? Predisposition, I have trouble with that word, to get lung cancer with your genetics, but it's because you were smoking cigarettes, not because you have bad genetics. Why are all these diseases going up? It's because of toxins in the environment, lack of exercise, GMO, vaccines, not because suddenly our genes are horrible.
Yeah, this is where, and we're going to see this more and more over the next decade, that the science is epigenetics, not genetics. It is your genes in the environment that we put them in, not your genes.
Absolutely. Well, they've always known it's nature and nurture. Now they're trying to say it's just nature. And, I mean, that's not true even in mainline science. They're just lying to people and saying, you will get cancer early because you have the genes for it, and these women are going and having their breasts removed.
This is such a profound disrespect for our body and for the miracle that the trillions of things that are happening in our body every day. And for us to just have the hubris to go, oh, no, you have depression. It must be a deficiency of Prozac somehow.
Doctors available at InfoWarsStore.com. Everything's 10% off today, right through the weekend. I decided to extend it. And I've not seen bought yet, but I'm told it's very powerful and gets into the vaccines, the GMO, and the rest of it. And, of course, we know that the research is bought now. We know they're trying to shut things down as people turn against it. I see we're at a tipping point. A, do you agree with that? B, let's break down what's in your other film, Bought.
So the reason for the title, Bought, I am a free enterprise nut. I believe that that's the solution for most of our economic problems and a lot of our social
I
problems.
bet you like Ron Paul. That's horrible.
Yes. So what's been so discouraging to me, as I watch what happens when you mix money and healthcare, and I was talking to a friend about it, I'm like, this is almost a betrayal of capitalism, and he points out this is not capitalism.
It's
this
crony.
Is crony capitalism, and we really have been sold out.
Well, crony is the phony. It not only destroys your culture, centralizes power with corrupt people that operate in gangs, but then it discredits capitalism, and then they advertise socialism as the way to get rid of it, but then you just get socialized and dependent, and the globalists are above it as cronies and now have you domesticated.
Exactly what's happening. We in the film Bought, we show some whistleblowers where we interview. I had to drive out into the woods in Pennsylvania where this whistleblower literally ruined his life for 10 years. He was an investigator for the state of Pennsylvania, and he went after the head of the pharmaceutical board in the state, and there. As he got into it, he found out, and that was a picture of him right there. He found out that it was the big pharmaceutical companies behind it, and his boss told him to back off. They give to both sides of the aisle. We're not going after those guys. And so he continued to work the case. Finally, 10 years later, Johnson & Johnson pled guilty to the lies they told about the drug Risperdal. We're talking about deaths. They pled guilty to criminal charges. They paid now close to $3 billion in fines, but meanwhile they made $33 billion. We have the GlaxoSmithKline whistleblower that once again they made $44 billion and they paid a $3 billion fine. It's just the cost of doing business. And meanwhile, these people who risk their very lives and livelihood to try to bring, they're 1 in a million. It's happening every day.
Folks can get your film at jeffhayesfilms.com or Amazon. We're going to be carrying it. I was like, why haven't I seen this? Why aren't we carrying it? I'm told it's even more powerful than doctored. And I think every chiropractor in the country should be selling your film to folks that come in. Everybody has to weaponize against the globalists and the info war. We're under attack. We have a right to defense. We all become our own media operations in one way or another, or we lose everything. The First Amendment, the Second, the Fourth, the 10th, the 9th, medical freedom is under attack. The system knows there's an awakening happening, so they're trying to put the clamps down right now. That's clearly what's happening. Do you agree with that, and can you speak to the awakening?
Well, this is I'm telling you, it's people like you. We really do have to do this. I took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal for Bought 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
The next day, there was a story saying you need to get your kids vaccinated that was almost the size of my full-page ad.
Of course.
There were 10 days in a row in the Wall Street Journal, articles about you need to, this measles epidemic, you need to get your kids vaccinated, talking about the problem of people not getting vaccinated over and over and over. And I thought about it. I passed billboards here in Utah that saying, get your kids vaccinated.
It's a war. It's a full push.
And meanwhile, I took out one ad one time. That's all I could afford to do. A full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal cost a fortune. There's no way for any of us to make a difference in fighting with them down that road. It really is exactly what you said. We all have to support to create our own media operation. We all have to be darkness is no match for light if there's light. But
that's right. And again, if somebody just shows their friends and family doctored, or if somebody just tells folks about Infowars.com and sends them a free link to the podcast or a video that they think is important of our great reporters, or if somebody starts their own blog and writes their own articles and goes down and takes photos and covers things, we'll have people everywhere. If you know a neighbor that got brain damage from vaccines, go interview them, put it on YouTube. All of you are leaders. Don't thank Jeff. Don't thank me. We're trying to survive and help our families and help you. I mean, that's what empathy's all about. You've got empathy not because you're a nice guy, but because it's there. You get what happens to somebody else could happen to you. We're all one, and we've all got to become leaders. And this evil, parasitic, anti-free market, corporate mafia will fall. just as sure as day follows night. Stay with us. Final segment with Jeff.
We're on the march.